Okay. Yes, we started recording. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. So sorry, everyone. Good evening. Good day. I don't know what time it is wherever you are. Welcome to today's webinar. Today we're going to be talking with Kwabena, who is a software engineer in America, and he's going to be sharing his tips and his experience on how you can get a job after graduate school in America. I would say how I know Kwabena, but then I'll give him the floor, as they say, to introduce himself. So Kwabena and I were recipients of the same scholarship. We were, well, technically Master Foundation scholars at Arizona State University, and Kwabena was in a cohort, the first, second, wait, Kwabena, what cohort were you in?
First,
You were in the first cohort,
it was
yeah.
the first.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was a year ahead of me. So that means he graduated a year earlier. So Kwabena currently works as a software engineer in one of the top tech companies in the world, not just in America. And yes, he honestly, when I heard work at Kwabena was working, I was like, there's hope for the rest of us. So yeah, that is how I know Kwabena, and he's graciously agreed to do this because it's morning. I don't know how many people are waking up on a Saturday morning and jumping on a call. So thank you so much for agreeing to do this. So, but now I'll leave him to introduce himself. And I'm so sorry I cannot put on my video at the moment. My network is not the best. Just in case I drop off, Esther would take over. But yeah, Kobena, please introduce yourself and give us a background of
All
like
right.
where are you from, what did you study, stuff like that.
That's right. All right. Hi everyone. My name again is Kwabena Edudakwa, and I'm originally from Ghana, West Africa, and I grew up in Ghana. I was raised in Ghana. Um, in Ghana, I started with background in business because when I was in high school, I did business and I did WASI, just like the West African certificate examination, like Nigerians also do other West African countries. So I did WASI in business. I went to university in Ghana. I got a full scholarship actually to study at a private university in Ghana called Ashesi University. And it opened my my way, or like it opened so many opportunities for me. First, I got introduced into computer science, and that's how come um, I got my computer science background. So I did management information systems, where it was like a combination of business and computer science. So I didn't want to lose my business background, so that's how come I got introduced to computer science. And to be honest, I liked the idea. I liked the problem solving that came with computer science. But I wasn't too excited at that moment about it until my second year. I started working on some projects, and I was like, "Oh, this seems very interesting." So fast forward, I finished Ashesi. I I started as a graduate teaching assistant, or I think in Ghana it's not graduate teaching assistant, but we call it national service. But I was a teaching assistant because I wasn't a graduate student then, so teaching assistant. And when I finished, I also worked for about 2 years in tech as a systems analyst. And also, I was doing like front end development and software development on the side for a startup that introduced me into the whole coding and programming. And I decided to, it's about time, let me seek for other opportunities. So again, I applied to various schools and eventually I got a scholarship to study at Arizona State University Information Technology. There I studied um, and I finished within 2 years, and then I got a job and moved from Arizona to California. So that's a little bit about my background. As we go or we move forward, I'm going to talk like details into like so I'll try to add some of my experiences and see how they can actually support some of the points that I'll be making. So yeah,
Thank you very much, Kwabena, for that um, introduction. So moving to America, um, what was your? Can you give like? Was there anything that you did during grad school that you think made you stand out, other than try not to fail? And I can't remember how what the GPA was, but I think we were advised to not have a GPA less than 3.0, if I can remember correctly.
that's
But
right.
like apart
That's right.
from these people have given me money, let me not fail before they collect my scholarship back. Do you think that there's anything that made you stand out in terms of like, maybe professional development or networking or anything of that sort?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. Um, when I was coming very hungry for success. Let me put it simply, because I had had the opportunity to work with some people when I was doing my national service, and we applied for the same opportunities. Like we were applying to like Microsoft for a full-time job, and some of them made it, and I didn't make it. So like within me, I was like, this is a missed opportunity. So already I was coming with like, if I had gotten that opportunity, that was like 2 years prior or 3 years prior, I would have already been in the US working for a big tech company. So I was coming with that. Um, I don't. I. It is a negative reaction, but it's a negative emotion. But I channeled it in a positive way because I was really pained that I didn't get that opportunity. So I was coming like, this is my time back. So that was my whole mindset when I was coming. So what happened was the moment I stepped foot to the US, stepped foot into Arizona State University, I started applying for internships. Because I knew where I wanted to be, the kind of companies that I wanted to work for, and what it takes to get there. So I started applying, and I know at that moment I knew that it is a numbers game. At that moment, I knew that like I was really, really serious about finding that internship that would propel me to where I wanted to be. So that was the whole motivation. So school was very important to me, but the most important thing to me was finding a good internship that would channel me or, usher me into the real working world. So that's what gave me the full, um, you know, edge. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so um, you came hungry,
seeing very hungry.
and you like right from the beginning, you kind of. Sorry, can you hear any noise in the background?
No, it should be fine. I don't hear any
Right.
noise.
Um, okay, all right, thank you. So I was saying that you came hungry, and right from the beginning, you already had your goal in mind. I think that's huge. Um, because I feel like a lot of times, and it's not that this is necessarily a bad thing, when you get a fully funded scholarship, especially like you don't have to deal with the whole like when you watch American movies and they're talking about how they're in debt because they have to pay, they went to college and whatever, and you're like, no, I'm here on a full ride. The euphoria of that sometimes can be blinding in the sense that you're just in the oh my gosh, I'm a scholar phase, and somebody's giving you a stipend to go to school, and then technically you are living better than most international students,
That's
because
right.
You don't have to wait for your parents to send you money because it's like, I mean, Ghana has a much stronger currency than Nigeria, but like either way, by the time you do the conversion, is whatever it is they want to send you is not much, right? Um,
Yeah.
so it's easy to get caught up in that euphoria that you forget that technically 2 years, especially if you're in America and you're doing a master's degree, is a short time. It's a short time. And even if you're in America on a scholarship, which is proof that you are smart, there are people who are one, there are millions, if not, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of people who are just as smart as you are. And there are probably even more people who are smarter than you are. So just relying on the I was smart enough to get a scholarship thing is not going to cut it, right? Um, it's one thing to make it to America, but then it's another thing to make it in America. Um, so maybe at home you're a local champion. When you get to America and like after school, you are competing with trying to be an international champion. So I think it's helpful to have that mindset from like even before you get there, recognize, have a plan, what you want to do, because first of all, you don't have to stay back in, in grad school. After grad school in America, one, and some people want to work in academia. So even though it's not like you can pick the academia work on the street, but in a sense, there's a sense in which the transition from maybe a master to a PhD may be smoother than getting a job in the corporate world. But either way, you have to have a goal in mind, and so I guess that was helpful. So now to like the practical bits of it, can you share like do you have like a ballpark figure of like how many opportunities you applied for, like how many interviews you did before you did your current role, how many rejections, you check your inbox, check your spam, and like what, surely something should have entered this my email by now.
To be honest, that's a very good question. I applied to so many. It was over 400 opportunities, and the rejections were a lot. The thing is, for some, you don't even get opportunities to do the interview to even prove yourself or show anything. But the rejections were a lot. But eventually, about a week or the week of my graduation, I actually had done some interview, one interview with Snapchat. So at the week of my graduation, that's when I got the offer that hey, you have a full-time offer. Backtracking to before the full-time job, the internship, I also applied to so many, got a few rejections, but also got about three offers. But it was the beginning was heartbreaking. But the thing is, the more interviews you do, the better you become, and the more interviews you do, the 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 more you see where you fall short and what you can do to improve on the areas that you fall short. So initially, it was a lot of rejection, rejection, rejection. But when you got to the latter part, especially for the internship, I was able to um, get about three.
Sorry, it looked like some spammy person got on the call, so I was trying
Yeah.
to
Uh,
um remove. Yeah. So
mhm.
wow, I can't imagine like walking into like your the graduation and what's it called, commencement ceremony, knowing that you have a job. That is so that's so cool. Um, there's there's the, oh, you have a job, but then there's a thing about like your immigration status. How are you able to find a job that would accept the fact that okay, you're not on a H-1B, or like um it's not like you have a green card or something? Were you what How did you go through looking for jobs where your immigration status was not a problem, or did you just apply regardless of, because I remember applying, and then I know that there's a part where they would ask, would you now or at any point in the future require something something visa assistance to stay in America? And for me, a lot of times that was just like disheartening. Did you apply regardless, or what strategy did you know apply when you were looking for jobs? Did you just be like, no, anything that is remotely related to what I do, I apply, or were you strategic with your applications?
When you're desperate for a job, you just have hope that anything that comes my way, I'm gonna take. So you don't even care. Like you just apply for anything that comes your way. But I think a more strategic thing to do is it takes a lot of work, right? But a more strategic thing to do is okay, this company that I'm going to apply to, have they even sponsored someone's visa before? Would they in the future? So these are some of the questions that you ask. But what I want to say is that when you are looking for a job, especially when you graduate, you shouldn't really care about visa sponsorship as long as you are on a STEM OPT. The STEM OPT, they give a 2 years extension. Typically, everyone has a 1 year post graduation to work. But if you work in STEM, then you have 2 more years. So if you have that, you just shouldn't even care about it. Because I know some people who got jobs that um, the companies that they were working, they didn't even have like e-verify. Before a company can sponsor you, they need to have e-verify. But when they got in because of the OPT, the company willingly enrolled in e-verify. So you can join a company that does not sponsor, but based on how you communicate with the CEO or how you communicate with your manager, they can enroll, especially if it's a smaller company, things can move fast and everything. So they can enroll and then sponsor you. So I think that's basically, unless the job description says that we do not um, sponsor visas, then there's no point in applying. But if they are just asking the question, would you need in the future? They are asking that for a reason. Still apply. Just say that yes, I will need in the future. And they know the difference between F1, H1B. If you tell them that you are F1 and they know that you are STEM, they know that you can work for them for at most 3 years. Within those 3 years, then you guys can find something to do after. But I don't think any company would not want you to work for them for at least 3 years while you sort your permanent or work visa situation. So I think that's what I'll say. Still apply. Um, just be truthful about your need and then see how it works.
Hmm. Um, that's interesting, because I mean I've seen people online say just say no. If they say, will you need kidney? They say no, because maybe if you get to the interview stage, you'll be like, oh wow, this person is really good. We're ready to sponsor them, and then you would have beat the system, because I know there's a whole how to beat the applicant tracking system. That's a whole other story. But I mean, thank you for pointing out that at the end of the day you have to be truthful, because I mean, what's the point of wasting your time interviewing and then they're like, oops, sorry, oh, we don't sponsor, and you would have wasted your time. Um, but I wanted to say, I've also heard that in a sense, applicants, what's it called, the applicant tracking system, the ATS, can be a means of profiling. Now, here's what I mean. You have a very African first name. You are no Matthew, you are no Joseph. Is there any truth to the fact that people say, you know what, your name is Aderibigbe something.
Mhm.
What's your English name? Put that first, so that like
Yeah.
it doesn't throw you just by your name out of the system. Do you are there things
Yeah.
like that that you have to do? Maybe put your English name first. Um, yeah, there's a number of all those things. Is there some truth to all those things? Is there any particular way international students have to work to hack the ATS that maybe someone who is American wouldn't have to bother about?
You know, that's a very interesting question. I personally think that there are some subtle discrimination, but it's not very obvious because the HR would probably configure um, the system to because so many applications. You understand? There are so many applications. They want the best candidates. They want the least amount of work. You just think of it. If you have a company, you want the best candidate. At the same time, you don't want to be the one, you don't want it to cost you to hire that person or to retain that person. So they're trying to maximize their resources. You understand? So in one way or the other, right? If I have 10,000 people applying for the same job, I have the um, liberty to say, you know what? Historically, people from these schools have performed well in this company. So let us filter out to these to have only these candidates from these schools. They can say that, you know what, people from with this GPA have historically proven themselves that they work hard, at least in school. So I think they might be better suited for the job. So they'll use these layers to just cut off, cut off, cut off. And it can also happen that they'll say that, you know what, if we have candidates that do not meet visa sponsorship, why hire them? So they can use that as a layer to cut you off. But every candidate like we have our own strengths, you know. Maybe you are the one with a high GPA. You are the one with going to the competitive school. You are the one with the best projects on your resume. You are the one with the highest number of years of experience. So you can outshine in certain areas. At the end of the day, the companies want the best candidate. So yes, it could be that you will be sidelined based on your need for a visa sponsor or visa sponsorship, and that's fine. You are not suited for that job. So that's why it is a numbers game. Um, how fast enough you apply to the job when it's open. Um, so it's not straightforward. That's the thing. So especially when they have the options, you know, especially if we can liken it to a girl who is at her prime and she's super beautiful. You understand? She can decide, hey, I want a guy who has this amount of money. I want a guy who is this height, does this job, and she probably could get. That's how it is. If the demand and supply is not balanced, then they get a choice or the chance to filter out with these layers. So the best thing I can say is you cannot control some of these things. The things that you can control are your experience on your resume, your the number of years of experience that you have doing something, your expertise in certain areas. Um, Maybe you did computer science, but there is a specific domain that not many people have expertise in, but that's what you focused on or you narrowed in on. You understand? Right now, with the development of AI and everything, there are so many specific roles that have come up that people do not even the roles never existed, but now there has become the need arose, right? Or the need has the need is there now. So we need to be very strategic with how we position ourselves. You know, if they actually need a candidate that fits a particular criteria, no matter whether you need a sponsorship or not, if you fit that role, they're going to give you. So I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense. You just um you just leverage on the things that you're good at or things that you can control rather than getting worried about things you can control because definitely that is gonna come to play at a point. So yeah, that's my take on that.
Okay. I guess at the end of the day, the best you can do is what's in your power. And you saying it's a numbers game, it really is a numbers game. But there's just something about being discouraged. Like, oh my gosh, I've applied to 50, and you are saying 400. That's yeah. And I'm sure that people who applied to 50 and then they got an offer. So you can't really tell what would move the needle for you, but what is sure is that, like, you can't wing it, in a sense that you just like apply to five and you're like, there's it's a numbers game. And I think it's the same for, even if you're not in America. I feel like for most opportunities anywhere in the world now, you may not have to apply to 500 because there's a huge talent pool of people who are highly skilled in America, but you would still have to put your best foot forward and be strategic in what you're doing. Do you think there's a place for job fairs, career days, all those type of things, or career fairs in school, and as well as maybe volunteering? Because, for instance, I know that when it comes to scholarships, it's for a lot of scholarships, having some volunteering experience is helpful. But do you think stuff like this plays a role in getting a full time job in the
It
US?
does. You don't have to discount volunteering. That's how you meet people. At the end of the day, it's mainly relationships. It's not that easy, but and it's also not like a one day thing. Like over 2 years that you're going to do your graduate school, 4 years if it's undergrad, you build connections with professors, industry people, and when they see the value that you have, they would want you to be on their teams in the future. So that's how it works. At the end of the day, someone has to recommend you in a way. If you don't want to go through the traditional, oh, not everyone is um, good on paper. Some people do not have the best GPAs. They don't have the best resumes or experience. But when you give them the job, they get it done and they do it better than someone who had the highest GPA. So if you know that's you, then you know that yours is not to just submit an application and go and sleep. Yours is to show people that, hey, I can do the job. You know, you talk to them, tell them, oh, this is what I'm working on, this is what I'm excited about, this is what I know. Uh, and now with the presence of social media, you can share your work without even uh, being in the room. You know, you can work on projects, you can share how you think about situations or topics which could influence someone to, have an impression of you and could give you a job. So yes, networking really, really matters.
Okay. So you mentioned projects. Do you think, I mean, I don't know how it is or it was in Ghana, but I feel like there is a sense in which, at least from my experience in Nigeria, doing like the final year project is just like, this is the last thing I have to do so that these people will give me my degree and I will be out of here. But do you think it's helpful to think of a project as like culminating experience, such that you're not just doing this so that they'll give me my mark and I'll go, but it's something that you think is relevant? So if you're for instance, you're doing a master's in computer science, you're not just doing a random so for instance, scheduling app for trains, which has no bearing on your interest or like the industry that you want to work. Do you think that's also a way to be strategic. So, for instance, if you are somebody who is computer science, but like, oh, you want to work with one of them AI companies, OpenAI, Anthropic, and co. So you just decide, oh, you know what? I have a master's in computer science. I'm going to do something that has a bit of AI, something, something, so that while maybe technically you didn't, if you didn't have formal experience working in AI, because there's a sense in which this big blowouts in the AI space is new, even though AI isn't new, right? Do you think that's helpful when you don't have like the, oh my gosh, I worked for 2 years as an AI engineer? Because, technically, most people don't have that experience because those roles didn't necessarily exist, I don't know, 5 years ago. Do you think that's helpful?
Yeah, that's very, very helpful. So people can people can determine your motivation, right, based on things that you are excited about and things that you do. For instance, Bemi, you started Growth Tribe, right, to help students who want to grow in knowledge, opportunities, whether abroad or in Africa. You understand? This is something
Yeah.
that you are not being paid for, right? Something that you started out of your own initiative and you are excited about. So in the future, let's say if
Mhm.
MasterCard is looking for someone who um, someone to manage, let's say, transition, right? Because they have programs that manage the transition from people who are down with a scholarship and how do they transition into the world. Let's say they're looking for someone in as head of transition. Between you did computer science undergrad, and I forgot what you did, learning sciences, or I forgot what you did for your master. But you see that
Media arts and sciences. Yeah.
good, you did art and sciences. So you see that at the end of the day, between you who has started an initiative that is helping some people, right? You can you can boast about, oh, I've helped this number of people joined my panels, or this number of people have benefited from this program. Between you who have this track record and someone who has a master's degree in, let's say, education or education transition, who do you think MasterCard would choose for that role? Oh, it's a question though.
Yes. Oh. Yeah.
So
I guess
clearly,
someone like me. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So clearly, you have demonstrated that you can do the job. You have the skills to get it done. So in the same way, if you are in school, it's not just about studying computer science or studying um, engineering. What can you do to demonstrate that I am interested in this field or I am excited about this field? So right now there is with this presence of AI, there is another thing we call like AI ethics. People actually go to like schools to do masters in like AI ethics, policy, and all these things. But imagine if someone maybe started just a social media account talking about AI and how we should be careful and talking about the ethics of AI. They have would have had more impact, right? They would have had more impact than someone who just went to study a 1 year master's in AI ethics. You know, so having that drive to start something, whether a project, a side project, sharing it, letting people know about it is so important. And yeah, so that's what I wanted to speak on that.
Okay. I think hearing you speak, it
Let me
just,
get let me
I
get my
mean, I
charger,
don't.
please, just for a minute.
Okay. Hearing Kwabena speak, it just makes me think about how it's important to find something that you are excited or passionate about? I know that, work is work, and for some people, they just maybe we just work to live and have money in your pocket. But I feel like, in a sense, it's helpful if you have a sort of personal connection to that work. Now, it's like, what do you mean? I'm a software engineer, I just build apps. Yes, but I think that there's a way passion that has demonstrated itself over time in your life, in the projects you're involved in, and all that. It's a helpful way to show your, expertise, or like set you apart, you know, from people who maybe have the skills or have the experience or went to Harvard, but they don't have that, because you never know what's going to be the deciding factor. Because, like I said, uh, there are many people who have the exact same qualifications like you do, right? In fact, Kwabena and I were coming to the market hot, hot with our ASU degree. Other people are coming to the market hot, hot with their Stanford degree. And it's like, bro, you're probably just going to pick Stanford over ASU. No offense. So there are different things that can make you stand out, and it's important to try and figure out what your edge is. If your edge is not, oh, I had a 4.0 GPA, oh, I have an Ivy League education, what is your edge? What are you maybe passionate about? What have you demonstrated some level of maybe success or productivity about, in the sense that maybe the other candidates don't have that, and that's one way you stand out. So yeah, I know that for some people, going to graduate school in America is a means to get out of their whatever African country they are in. But at some point, you have to realize that the desire to escape whatever country you're in is it's not not necessarily enough to translate to a good life or a good job. Because first of all, now that you're in America, you have to get good grades. Some people can do that without necessarily immersing themselves, like Kwabena said, okay, so you have a degree in computer science or engineering. What can you use that degree to do? It's not enough to, I have the certificates. You're going to have to show workings. You can't say you're a software engineer who doesn't know how to build stuff. So there's just, I feel like there are many, many, many layers to this thing. But as an immigrant, which is what you are, if you're an American, you're not American, you kind of have to find a way to, distinguish yourself, and hope that by the time you play the numbers game, as Kwabena advises, you know, luck smiles on you. My older brother likes to say that opportunity favors the prepared mind. So you have to have shown workings, be in order to even be an option for these companies in the first place. So there's that. Um, I was going to ask, were there any specific sites or resources that you found helpful? Was it important to have like a portfolio? Um, People say customize your applications and all that. Do you think that's important? Because in my head, I'm like, 400 applications. How many times do you have to customize or cover letter? Which honestly, I absolutely detest, because you have my CV. You've asked me why I'm interested in the job, but now you need a cover letter. But unfortunately, you're the one who needs a job, so you're gonna have to do it. What do you think about AI for these job applications and stuff like that? Like, in the think of it practically, where were you going to? Where were you sourcing jobs? Um, what did you do?
I I didn't write cover letters. I also didn't like cover letters, but I kept one that I just, if it was needed, I would send. But specifically for computer science or software engineering field, people do not ask for cover letters unless maybe they're a small company, or it's like uh, uh, the company is not known, or they don't know how to. how it works. The standard is not to have cover letters for software engineering fields. Um, so what I would say is know the industry you're in. Know the industry you're in. Um, UX design is different from software engineering. Software engineering is different from, let's say, civil engineering, electrical engineering. The good thing about software engineering is that there is a lot of demand, at least there used to be a lot of demand. So they have new grad programs. So that was my target. Well, I was targeting new grad programs. And for some of these big companies, they have such programs. So I was looking for schemes, rotational programs, graduate programs. They have certain specific keywords that they use. So, for instance, they'll say like graduate rotational program 2026, or let's say if it's a company like Meta or Facebook, it's like Meta new grad software engineer 2026. So I was looking for keywords like that. And the main places that I used LinkedIn, obviously. I used Handshake. Handshake is, I think, very popular in the US. Um, and I just use Google too. So I have the keyword that I'm talking about, and then I just search them. But one thing I wanted to advise is that know the industry. Every industry has their own way of seeking for jobs or like the style. So what I would advise is first, what are people doing? People who pursued the program that you did, what are they doing? You know, your seniors, what are they doing? Where did they end up? You know, so I was looking at some of these things, even when before I graduated. And also I knew all these things before because I know the industry. I know that for software engineering, you have to do lead code. Lead code is like a problem solving platform that has so many questions that you usually some of these tech companies pick the questions on that platform. So that is the standard for the software engineering. So you need to know the industry standard for interviewing and job searching. So know the standard, look at what people in your school or your program are doing. Um, even what extra thing did they do, you know, before they got there? And I think that's how come you would be able to know where to channel your efforts. Because if you are, for instance, a UX designer and you don't have a portfolio of your designs, you have failed. You think your resume will do it for you, then you have failed. The standard for that job is to have a portfolio. Usually they would have a website and they'll show things that they did, right? It would be like a layout of my design thinking process to how I prototype to how I did the actual designs. And this is something that they do. So know the industry, check what people who did your program have done or have on their resume, and then follow the same path. And I think that's the way to go. And also, you can check job descriptions as well. Before I started applying for jobs, I was looking at job description, what are these looking out for, and and that's it.
Yeah, I think yes, trying to figure out what is needed. Because again, if you're from like I don't know somewhere on the continent, I think in a sense, an industry that has to do with like computer science, software engineering, is pretty standard globally. But it's helpful to see, oh, like you said, if you're a software engineer, you should, use lead code. You have like what's that thing called? GitHub, Z-Link, a repository, all those things. Like if you know that, like as you're arriving in school, you can realize that okay, maybe I'm deficient in XYZ, or maybe my JavaScript or something is not strong enough. Um, Maybe I need to learn React JS, something. But you only find know that because you have not come with assumptions that the skills that you had or the skills that you have will get you the job that you want. Especially if you know Kwabena was aiming at high, going for Snapchat. So and if you're looking for what they call them again, um, FANG, which I don't
Oh,
know what the
fun, yeah.
acronym is. Facebook,
Yeah.
what's it? Facebook,
Facebook,
uh,
Apple. Oh no, I
Apple,
think Amazon. Amazon,
Amazon. N is
Netflix,
what? Netflix. G
and
is
it's
Google.
Netflix.
Yes,
Google,
G is Google. Yeah. If you're going for a FANG, you know that you probably have to be an above average software engineer. Well, I don't know. I'm just saying. And so, but you're able to maybe in that maybe 2 year period is where you build the skills to actually make you ready to be able to qualify for roles in that industry. And I'm sorry if I keep talking about tech. Apologies. Kwabena works in tech. And even though I'm not a software engineer, I work in tech as well. So that's definitely helpful. Um, because yeah, like I said, you're not trying to make assumptions, you're trying to be ready for the role, ready for the role that you want. So now moving to interviews. I know it's almost 6 o'clock, but moving to interviews, what would you say made you stand out? And actually, out of curiosity, how many interviews did you do? Because I'm always seeing people talking about how they did like 10 rounds of interview on Facebook or Google. I'm like, bro, if it takes you 10 rounds of interview to decide me whether you want me, I don't know whether the problem is with you or me, but I'm just kidding.
So for my role, I did. So the first round was it was more like a it was more like a screening, but I had to solve two questions, programming questions. So I had one engineer and I solved. The second rounds of interview, it was 5 hours, and I had 1 hour break, maybe 30 minutes, and each hour was so it was a project long round, and the first round is like a first phase, second round, second phase, third round, uh, another phase, fourth, another phase, and the fifth round was behavioral. So each one for the technical parts, they had like increasing level of difficulty. So, one, two, three, four, five, and then difficulty goes ahead. But the last one, or the fifth round, was behavioral. So in one sitting, I had I spoke to five different people. So that's what makes it a little challenging, but it's fun if you really like know what you're doing and you enjoy. It's like a project long, so like you're building something along the line,
Mhm.
and it was nice.
Wow,
Yeah,
interesting. Saying it was nice.
yeah.
Was it all in one day? You
All
know,
in place. That's the painful thing because you sit for 5 hours. I sat for like 4 hours straight. I was so tired.
was it
And usually
online or
when
physical?
it was online, and usually when
Oh,
I have interviews to like, I don't even feel like eating. So like the whole day, like your brain is just wiped out, and you haven't eaten, and then you're just sitting there trying to think and solve like problems. But I think for the Snap interview, that was the most interesting interview that I've ever had. Yeah, it was very practical. Like you were building something. But for other interviews, it's more like, hey, this hard problem. It doesn't really have any applicable meaning, but like you're just trying to like puzzle. It's just trying to prove that you can think deep. That sort of interviews. That's the standard, but it's tough. But Snap's one of like system design. You're building a system, so you think logically about um, what to use. It's not just about the technical bit, but it's about okay, your thinking ability and your reasoning. Because you're building a system, so you need to know what connects to this, how this is gonna work. You know, um,
mhm.
so that's what I liked about it. So tips about interview. This is what helped me. Um, I think first off, you need to know your stuff. You need to know your stuff. Whatever you put on your resume, just know whatever it is that you have there. If you mention certain technical words, technical projects, be ready to explain what it involved. At the end of the day, they want to know whether you have done something similar or you have had a big responsibility. So you need to share with them that, hey, I did this, I did that. Um, and I think everything is more, um, we are humans, right? So it's more like human psychology. Besides knowing your technical stuff and being willing or able to share what you've done in the past, you should have that human connection. People want to work with people that they like, right? So one thing that I used was this is a psychological trick that people can also use. Throughout my interview, I tried to mention the interviewer's name. So maybe they introduce themselves to me as, let's say, Benny. All right. So if I'm solving the problem, like, okay, so Benny, this is how I'm thinking about the problem. I am thinking that I'm going to use an array and maybe solve the array first before this. And do you think I should proceed, Benny? So it's like you just you just came to know them within the past 10 minutes. But for the fact that you're mentioning their name, it's like you're building a connection. So that's one psychological trick that you can use. You try to, build a connection. But obviously you need to know what you're doing. But the human aspects of it that you mention their name, you acknowledge them, you listen to them, you try to have conversation. And especially the last part, the behavioral. They want to know whether you fit in the company's culture. So being able to have like a normal conversation, you don't have to be stressed. Just feel like you're talking to a normal human being, and it really helps. So I think that's one trick that I used. I don't know whether it's a trick, but it's just like being human and just yeah.
Well, I guess you're the when preparing for interviews, I've been stumbling upon videos where they're like, they don't want to know you. This is the only answer you give for this. When they ask what are your weaknesses, you say, oh, I can get a bit too into my work, so that means that sometimes I'm a workaholic. But, yeah, it just means I'm very. Do you think those like interview preps of like questions online, do you think they're practical or they're helpful? Or would you say that people should take a more personal approach? Or is it like a mix of both? Or is it a read the room situation where it's like I can gauge from this person's body language, and like, okay, maybe it's a type of responses that they need? Or would you say it's probably company culture? Because a lot of companies have like their culture page and whatever, and you can see what maybe from their social media, depending on what their employee branding is, how people interact with the company. So what would you say it is? And sorry guys, we're almost done. If you have questions, you can start typing them. Thank you.
Yeah, I think read a room first. But personally, what it never goes wrong if I add a person attached to it. Personally, it never goes wrong. You don't want to be seen to be too serious, like you're all about like you've rehearsed an answer. But uh, I always that's why storytelling works on anyone. You know, when you inculcate like some storytelling to your conversations, your interaction with people, they tend to that's how the brain works. They tend to visualize, they tend to empathize, they tend to put themselves in their shoes. So storytelling always works. And that's why for most interviews they ask you, tell me about a time, tell me about a time question. And they want to know, they want to hear stories. So if you're a good
Mhm.
storyteller, that is your strong point. So I think you need to mix both, like, okay, being too like professional and being like very personal about the whole thing. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I guess that makes sense. I never thought about the tell me about question in that sense that they actually want you to tell a story and not be yeah, so you can I think you can be I think the problem is that we've maybe come to have the belief that you can be personal and professional. And if I hear what you're saying, it's like um there is a way to do that too. I'm not saying you should tell me about your mommy and your daddy, but I mean, unless your mommy and your daddy have something to do with whatever is happening. But there is a way to tell the story. So yeah, that's helpful. Thank you so much, Kwabena, for sharing your experience. We're going to be taking questions now. And Mikichuku says, considering the proliferation of tech and the coming of AI, what area would you advise a prospect to niche to? Okay.
If I knew, I would be doing that right now. But this is a very good question, like seriously. Um, um, I think, hmm, I think, um, being in machine learning would never fail. Like, to be honest. So the machine learning engineers are the ones creating these models, doing machine learning research. They are the ones who are discovering these models to like come up with these AI stuff. But again, again, we have so many people doing computer science now that you need to do extra to stand out. Personally, I don't think that software engineering as a role will be like eradicated, but AI has made it easier. The barrier to entry is lower, but you need to know what you're doing. There are people who cannot even use the AI to do what they have to do because they don't even understand the problem. So other things that are going to work are like your leadership skills. Because people we are not only looking for execution. Like we're not only looking for who can code because software can actually do most of the job. But we're looking at okay, who can think about what problem are we trying to solve? What are the right problems we have to solve? And and why do we have to solve them? So I would say that yes, you can look for a niche, like let's say machine learning, even security, specific aspects of security. Another thing that I see people, someone on my team is now looking into is GPU performance because right now these AI companies are using a lot of GPUs that they need to see how they can optimize it. So these are things that you can explore, but they are endless. AI is going to bring new jobs that um yeah. So yeah, that's my answer to this question.
Yes, I definitely agree with Kwabena that even before the AI rave, machine learning has always kind of been like a good field, whatever. Because again, this is like I can't remember, they taught me history of computing. This is like the fifth or fourth AI wave or something, because there have been AI waves. There's like third generation history of computing, but then there's like a proper AI wave thing, When I was in school, what was in vogue was data mining. Like I don't know if that's what we used to call it. Big data. There was like a
Yeah,
whole big data mining wave, right? So I think Kwabena also mentioned earlier AI ethics. If you're someone who may not have the technical acumen to be like a very skilled, maybe software engineer, machine learning engineer, you can look into AI ethics. There's also like data governance. There's AI security because again, you, those are areas that you can go to, but then they also allow you to pivot if for whatever reason 5 years from now everybody's like, we need to take a break from this AI thing. You
mhm,
can they have transferable skills that you can apply to, or if you are doing AI security, you could do regular cyber security. Um, if you're doing data governance, even without AI, you know, um personal, what's it called, GDPR and data privacy and all that is still something that was in place before this new wave of AI. So, yeah. But I also think, and even if your core role is not necessarily tech, it can be tech enabled, right? So you can be a customer service manager, but they have found a way to rope in AI to your job and maybe help. Maybe you built an AI agent. So there are a lot of low code, no code ways to apply AI to your job, or just even understanding, having like a basic understanding of AI that you can then apply and do like some AI literacy thing and automation for people at your job. So you're not necessarily an AI engineer or something, but you are AI literate. And I
Yeah.
think that sometimes people are trying so hard to be AI engineers. They don't recognize that even just being AI literate is a plus, especially if like you're not a software engineer or like you're not a core tech person. So in addition to what Kwabena said, I think that's helpful. So we are out of time. It's 6:09. If there's one more question, I'd like um, anyone, if you have a question, you can raise up your hands. Otherwise, I think most people have everyone dropped up of we can end for today. While we wait for that question, do you have like, outside of what I've asked, do you have any words of encouragement or any particular thing that you think is helpful for people who are anticipating this journey or like um, already close to a time where they're looking for a job?
Yeah, I'll say that it's not an easy journey. It's like a full-time job. You have to start early. The best way to get the best opportunities is through internships. So if you're able to get very good internships, then it translates. I think it's the easiest way to get a full-time offer. And also back to the AI thing, I think that someone will say that it's a hype, but the most important thing is your ability to adapt. And there was a time where everyone was into data science. And right now, I don't think people are hyped about data science anymore. And I don't know if AI is going to, hype is going to die. I doubt that the hype is going to die. But if you are adaptable and you are able to change when demands change, you are a lifelong learner. I think that's the most important thing. Look at what other people are doing and see the things that they did to get there, and you can also like replicate it. There's nothing you want to understand. So I think that's just to summarize everything. These are the things that I would say. And I
Thank
wish
you so
everyone all
much,
the
Kwabena.
best.
Thank you. Thank you, Kwabena. I really appreciate you coming, using your Saturday morning for this um it's helpful, your perspective, how personal it was, um, to yeah, to see that you have to start early, you have to be strategic in looking for exactly what it is that you want to look for. And then I also think it's also important to not do this alone. You know, I was joking with my husband yesterday, and I was like, sometimes you need to see somebody crashing out to that's the motivation you need to chase your goals. Where because imagine you're just in your own room like, oh my gosh, I've applied to 30 places, I have not gotten an interview, oh my life is so hard. And then you see someone say, oh yeah, I've done 120, and you're like, wow, clearly I'm not doing enough. And sometimes it just that just gives you a reminder that okay, so there's nothing wrong with you. You are doing the right thing. You are applying. You need to do more. And sometimes, for some reason, some people may just be wiser or just know how to work the system better than you, but if you keep quiet, you wouldn't know that. This is not the space. I don't think America is the place to do. I don't know whether it's a Nigerian or African thing. Where it's like, let me not say anything now, so that I can just blow privately. Now, I'm not saying go around tooting your horn saying, "Ah, good afternoon, I applied to Google today." But I think having people or like a person that keeps you accountable or they have similar goals with can be helpful. So in addition to all Kwabena said, I just wanted to say that thank you once again, everyone, for joining. And thank you so much, Kwabena. I was going to say that I'm going to ask Kwabena to share maybe some of the links. So if he has resources that he can share, and I'll share on the group later.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that's all
All right.
from us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bemi, as well, for putting this all together and helping the community. Yeah, I think it's impactful work.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. All right. Take care, everyone.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, okay, bye, Kwabena.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye.